Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Glenn Gould Foundation's Promise of Music Forum and our session on lessons learned, the sweet sounds of success from winning music programs. You may have heard of Glenn Gould, a famous Canadian pianist, but you might not know about our foundation. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to who Glenn Gould was and the work that we do. Glenn Gould used his talent and celebrity to reach people beyond the confines of what was traditionally accepted for an artist of his time. A revolutionary, he bridged the human divide of the East-West Cold War barrier through his performances in the USSR. In the studio, he transformed the way music was recorded and explored the use of new electronic technologies, television and radio, to reach a larger audience with a message larger than music itself. Finally, he set the example of the power of music to impact lives. The Glenn Gould Foundation exists today to extend Canadian and international awareness of Gould's spirit and legacy. We do this by celebrating innovation and excellence, promoting creativity, encouraging cultural diplomacy, and introducing programs that demonstrate the power of music and the arts to transform lives. The Promise of Music is the first of its kind. It's the first World Congress on the social impact of music. We are so thrilled that you're joining us. And on behalf of the foundation, I would love for us to all give a warm welcome to our distinguished moderator, Eric Booth, and hello, and our distinguished panelists. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining this panel of lessons learned, the sweet sounds of success from winning music programs. We have on stage the leaders of 6 of the most distinguished music for social change programs around the world, which, given the short amount of time we have, guarantees us to failure. There is no way we can introduce the wealth of learning from the many years of 6 of these deep programs in our short time, especially in a field that is not well organized for collective learning. Our field doesn't have a strong infrastructure. We have, God love them, earnest, helpful institutions like Sistema Canada and El Sistema USA and Sistema Europe that are able to do something in terms of advancing the learning from the field. But it's still a pretty disconnected field, and it's occasions like this when we get together to exchange a little bit about what we know. And so this is a precious occasion. And rather than going deep into any one of these programs, we're going to go fast and, I don't want to say shallow, but let's say headline highlight learning across all these programs. So apologies in advance to all my colleagues here that I've asked them to be very concise and brief so we can touch on a number of perspectives in this short amount of time together. The definition, the sounds of success, I'll say we certainly saw strong evidence of that in some of the performances last night from Sinfonia El Peru and our colleagues from, there we are, New Brunswick and Toronto performing at such extraordinary high levels yesterday. The word success, it's the etymology in English, invites us to think about success other than in the quantifiable way our cultures tend to prefer. The etymology of the word success means to have a follow-through, as in the succession of queens and kings. And in that way, these programs are amongst the most successful in the world, having had a follow-through with students, a follow-through in growth, a follow-through and impact throughout their communities. That's the definition of success we'll bring to our world today. And just a little note about how different success looks in different cultures. In Sistema Wangarae in northern New Zealand, in a Maori community, success to them looks like none of their music students join the gangs. And in El Sistema Japan, which was founded in a community overwhelmed by the Fukushima disaster and the tsunami, success to them looks like kids who are managing the trauma of their early lives. So success looks different in different communities. And we're going to begin with just a brief pass through each of these programs. We'll give you a little bit of statistical data about their program while we invite each of the program leaders to share a little bit about their own one element they are particularly proud of as a success in their program. And we've got a carefully designed sequence controlled by the slide sequence that is pre-programmed. So I'm just going to speed us through and start with Sean with a self-introduction, and there we go.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name's Sean Earle, and I have the honor of being the CEO of Sistema Toronto for the past 3 years. It'll be 3 years on Halloween. Prior to that, I was the Director of Artistic Administration and Education and Outreach for the Regina Symphony Orchestra. And I've also was a teaching artist, teaching clarinet at the St. James Music Academy in the downtown east side of Vancouver. I have a doctorate in clarinet performance, as well as I studied just up the road, an education degree at Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. And I've had an active career as a clarinetist as well, too, as the principal clarinet of the Charlottesville Symphony, as well as teaching at University of Virginia, Washington and Lee University, University of Victoria, as well. So that's what puts me in this position now. I'm most proud of Sistema Toronto's commitment to decolonizing music education and culturally responsive approach to teaching, while also supporting student excellence. This looks like our students having a social emotional curriculum that parallels the music curriculum, as well as at least, I would say much more, 50%, we say 50%, but it's more of our music our students learn being performed being by underrepresented composers, as well as projects and initiatives that reflect our communities. At Sistema Toronto, we also include traditional composers, but it's not an either-or approach. There's no hierarchy to music for us. My mindset is that a student is going to get Bach, Mozart, Beethoven eventually anyway, so why not expose them to Samuel Coleridge Taylor now, other less represented composers now. We live in a Eurocentric hegemony. This is a fact. So if we can move the needle on that from an early age, I think we're making an impact in our community, the orchestral community, the music community in the future. And the reason behind this success is the community of Sistema Toronto, right from the board of directors to our teaching artists, to our staff, to our support staff. Everyone is committed to that approach and recognizes the value of it, not just for our students, but for our society and the music industry as a whole.
I've heard of speed dating, but speed self-introduction. Thank you.
How did I do, 2 minutes?
Well done. Diego.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everyone. I am Diego Becerra, Music Programs Manager at Sinfonía por Perú. I am very grateful to be here sharing and learning with my colleagues on this forum. I am Music Programs Manager, but before I've been Director of one center, or Núcleo, as we say. Sinfonía por el Perú has 14 years of offering free music education every year about more than 6,000 children and adolescents. And I have been in the program for around 11 years. I am a musician, a percussionist, and a proud father of two children. And the thing that most, when we were thinking about this question, there are many things that make us proud. But definitely one of the most important is the impact, the actual and diverse impact we can and we have demonstrate in our students and the communities. And the reason behind that success, that impact, is, I think, I strongly believe that it is very much attached to the consistency and the comprehensiveness of our model and our organizational structure. As you can see, we have 5 intervention components, as we have 4 formative principles that are more in our pedagogical design. But as well, we have a strategic large plan, 5-year plan, and all of these frameworks, all of this theory, and all of these large reflections are traduced into specific activities in lessons, concerts, rehearsals. Every activity that we do on Sinfonía por el Perú, we try very hard that honors all these frameworks and all our overall and main purpose. So every piece of this complex puzzle that is an organization, in our case, we, as I mentioned, we are in 10 regions of our country. We offer the service to more than 6,000 children and adolescents. So we really try to make sure that every piece of the puzzle makes sense with all this framework, and everything is a logic element to pursue and to achieve this impact.
Thank you, Diego. I get to work with Sinfonia quite a bit through a project called Academy for Impact Through Music. You might want to remember that name. It's a in-depth program for teachers, and one of our close partners in this is Sinfonia. Nick.
Good morning. My name is Nick Skinner, and I'm the Vice President and a founding team member of the Orchids program with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. Orchids really started back in 2007 when Maren Alsop became the music director of the Baltimore Symphony. She wanted to create a program that engaged the community, making sure that music and the opportunity to play an instrument was accessible to all of our students in Baltimore City. We started in 2008 with 30 students at one site. We are now serving over 2,000 students at 8 sites across Baltimore City. We have 2 hubs operating with a hub satellite model. And at those 2 hub sites, we have students coming from 71 different schools to participate in our programming. Through our in-school program, we're really filling the void, making sure that our students have access, but they then can matriculate to our after-school program where they can continue to be served all the way through 12th grade, creating a musical pathway that starts in pre-K and goes through 12th grade and beyond as our students matriculate to college and post-graduation opportunities. For our students that are with us all the way through high school, we have a 100% graduation rate from high school, with 85% of those students going on to a post-graduation opportunity, whether it be a university, a community college, a vocational school, or even getting into a conservatory. Additionally, one thing I'm particularly proud about our program is, and because we are tied to a symphony, makes us very unique. We get to have great opportunities to collaborate with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, playing side by side with Baltimore Symphony musicians, as well as engaging with some of the most profound, famous guest artists in the world. Last year, for example, our students got to play with Yo-Yo Ma, side by side on the stage. Just a few weeks ago, our students got to perform with Joshua Bell. These are truly life-changing opportunities our students get as a benefit of being part of a symphony orchestra. So thank you.
Thank you. Ken.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Eric. And it's a pleasure to be with these wonderful people on the stage this morning. Well, one of the things that we are proud of at Sistema New Brunswick is the, much like Nick, this pathway idea that there is a network of children and youth orchestras that we've created over now a 17-year period. And so our students have this pathway for music learning and performance from grade 1 through to university. And what that means then is that our kids are inspired and motivated by the more advanced learners. And they also understand that they have the opportunity and the support to work towards higher levels of achievement. So here's an example. Arthur and his family immigrated to Canada during the pandemic. He was one of 16 French horn students in our Moncton Sistema New Brunswick Center. Arthur had a photograph in his music case, And that was to inspire him on his journey in music and as part of the orchestra. So I might ask the question, who do you think this photograph was of in Arthur's music case? Well, I can tell you it wasn't Stefan Dorr, the principal horn of the Berlin Philharmonic, and it wasn't Neil Deland, principal horn of the Toronto Symphony. It wasn't even Jonathan Astley, who was his teaching artist in the Moncton Center. So who in the world does Arthur look up to for inspiration? Well, his name is Avery. And Avery was a couple of steps ahead of Arthur at the time in our Sistema orchestras. Avery was an icon to the students. He grew up in the Sistema program. He volunteered every week at the Sistema Center. In Avery's last year with us, Arthur successfully auditioned and won a spot in our most senior orchestra. And he had the chance to play alongside his mentor, Avery. So the joy of this is Arthur was always looking ahead, the next level, the music he'd get to play, the musicians he'd get the chance to play alongside. And so this structure, network, pathway really is a very important part of supporting our overall mission at Sistema New Brunswick. Thank you.
Beautiful. And what an embodiment of that etymological definition of success to have a follow-through when the icon of aspiration is a slightly older student. Beautiful. Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky Williams. I'm Chief Executive of Sistema Scotland. We also launched in 2008 and started with a very similar 35 children and 6 staff members. Now we work in 5 cities across Scotland with 6 programmes. We see almost 4,000 children per week in total and 1,000 children come to the after-school programmes. So we work with babies to preschool with their parents and carers in each of our communities. We have a pretty similar setup. We then work with children as they go into nursery, which in Scotland is age 3 to 5. Primary 1 and 2 is pre-instrumental. And then the end of primary 2, when the children are around 7 years old, they sign up to the after-school programme and they're invited to come up to 4 nights per week through to the end of high school. We also have a community offer. So in each of our communities, we have choirs, intergenerational choirs, ukulele groups, folk groups, really leaning into whatever that community sees as their musical heritage, and we try and deliver on that as well. In terms of pathways, we similarly have young people who are now 18 to 25, and we just last week had our first music graduate come back as a musician in our programme. And for us, there was a moment actually in that interview process where candidates were coming in to do demonstration lessons. And when the former participant came in, it was like she was a rock star. And they were like, ah. So I think that really being able to see it, to be it, is starting to happen, which is exciting. We also have second generation, so young people who've been through the programme and have their own children coming into the programme as a second generation, which is, again, super exciting. And for us to hear the reflections of those young people now as parents is really interesting. One thing I'm particularly proud of is the commitment to our communities. So a first principle of our organisation is if we commit to a community, we're there long term. And I think many of the communities we work within have had services that have let them down time and time again. And we are determined not to be one of those. So we're there, we're consistent, and we're an anchor in their community. I think that's it.
Thank you. You're noticing the theme of students growing up through a program and becoming the faculty and leadership of the program, a model exemplified so amazingly in El Sistema Venezuela. And as I've heard in many programs, our job is to put ourselves out of business. And we have arrival of a co-facilitator, Tricia Tunstall, whose laptop was just returned by the Uber driver that she was waiting outside. So success, yes?
Success.
Fantastic. We're doing our speed introduction round, ending with Tina.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're going to have just a really inspiring day today, and it is such an honor to be on this panel. To be called a winning program, that's Pretty awesome, eh? Yeah. My name's Tina Fedeschi, and I am the co-founder and artistic managing director of Orchestra. Prior to that, I was a professional flute player in orchestra, mostly in orchestral situations, and I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is in my blood. I literally can't help myself. So that really helps to create dreams, I think. So we started in 2007 with 27 kids. And we now serve over 800 children ages 5 to 18 from 62 linguistic and cultural backgrounds. We have 3 hubs. We have 2 hubs bulging. We never have enough room to hold programming. We are teaching in the hallways. And we've got a 3rd hub that is just blossoming as we speak. So that is really, really exciting to be able to do that. We wanted to start this 3rd hub before the pandemic, but of course, everything got delayed. So we have also an in-school program where we're in 20 classes throughout the year. And those classes are within the schools within our own neighborhoods. And what we do is we go in and we teach the class, but we also teach the teachers to empower music education in the schools. And that is part of a social enterprise because the school board pay us to do that. So that is really a big a sense of pride for us. Our kids, I don't even know how to describe the success and my proudest moment. There have been too many. No, I can't say too many. There have been so many. And I think there are many aspects. The fact that we have 62 languages and cultural backgrounds represented amongst our children, music gives them a voice. It gives them a power and a confidence that transcends differences and really celebrates excellence and the joy of learning. And I think that's what when we have visitors, when we have concerts, it is the joy, the absolute delight of the kids playing and wanting to learn and wanting to be there and wanting to be with each other and seeing that I want to be like that. One huge thing of area of success is that one of our alumni, which we call Old Kidstra, is now a board member. And they all come back and play in our concerts as well.
You have a video.
Oh, yes. And the video, I'm sorry, thank you. And the video shows really why we are who we are. It's just 3 of our 10 leading notes, and it embodies our values in a really fun, interactive way.
Thank you. Just before we start some questions of our panelists, I should introduce Trisha Tunstall and me, Eric Booth. We're the co-founders of the newsletter, The Ensemble, that covers the global Music for Social Change movement that everyone here should be subscribing to. It is free. If you have an interest in the field, this is the place where its updates, its news, its introductions to different programs exist. And we're co-authors of the book Playing for Their Lives, which writes about the successes of these programs around the world. Any thoughts?
One thought, if you have a pencil and paper or a phone, the way you can subscribe to the ensemble is ensemblenews.org. One word, ensemblenews.org. That's a very important addition.
Exactly. Okay.
And I apologize for lateness. Very happy to be with you all.
Question for the panel. What is the main way you define success in your program? It organizes the faculty and everyone's focus on what is our main definition of success, and how do you know if you're achieving it? We don't have to go in any order. Who's got a first thought? Ken's reaching for the mic.
I'll jump in. So for us, success means simply achieving our mission. So that's the lens for everything that we do, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. So our mission at Sistema New Brunswick, inspire children and youth to achieve their full potential. And that's a social mission. And our job then is to equip young people and to have a successful life in the 21st century. So our vehicle and tool is music in the orchestra. Our goal, remove barriers, provide the scaffolding kids need to achieve their full potential. And our focus is excellence in music performance. And for us, that includes a pathway to higher education and to future careers in music. So how are we doing? That's an important question. Well, we've done various studies, and they report things like better school attendance, behavior, and academic performance. There's anecdotal feedback from parents and school teachers. Kids are more focused, disciplined, respectful of others. Musical performances are one of the measures, mastery of the repertoire as they progress through various levels. The children are engaged, they're proposing repertoire, they're entering concerto competitions. And this year, for the first time, our most senior Sistema Orchestra did a provincial tour of Mahler 1, ending with a performance at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. And I guess another measure are simply the students and their futures, because that's, of course, what our mission points to. So this year, in June, all of our graduates have continued on to higher education. 3 are studying medical science, and then history, biology, physics, psychology, engineering. 3 are studying music performance at U of T, Royal Conservatory, and Western, all with major scholarships. This year, 5 of our alumni who started with us with instruments they made out of cardboard have gone through our programs, completed performance degrees, and are on our staff team this year as teaching artists in our staff team of 74 teaching artists. So that's a bit of what success looks like to us. Thank you.
And you notice the measures are both musical and social. We've heard about graduation rates, success in school as a measure of success, very common in our programs. Diego.
Oh, yes, I found the topic of impact very interesting, because actually we can measure different type of results, and sometimes as a leaders, when we think about how can we measure impact, we need to, I think it's useful to remember that it can be measured at different levels. In our case, we found out, we learned that not only, of course, from internal process of monitoring and evaluation, but we have had experimental evaluations in 2 years, in 2014 and 2018. Actually, next year is going to be our 3rd experimental evaluation. So that is a very objective and scientific way to measure the impact, and especially for social skills and personal skills. So I think this is a very objective and useful tool also to communicate the power of music and the type of programs we run.
What social skills does your evaluation look at?
So there are a set of them. If you can go to our second slide, but either way, most of the responses that we learn, yes, exactly there. You can see, for example, 30% more of positive self-perception, or 29% aspires to pursue graduate or specialized studies. Everything that is related to the empowerment, to the self-confidence. Interestingly, we don't learn this from the experimental evaluations, but most of the feedback that we get from families is also connected to that and very consistent. Like, for example, the parent said, I see my son that through the years, the program has developed more confidence, more social communication skills, and so on.
Beautiful. Vicky.
We also have an independent evaluation that's been running for some years. I'm not going to talk about that just now, though, but I think just to say that internal monitoring is important, and from that, excellent evaluation can happen. For us, though, a kind of more on-the-ground measure of how are we doing is what is our potential sign-up any year. So we have children coming into the programme when they're 7. How many are we getting out of the possible total? So we're looking for around 60, 70%, and we're looking for that retention at the end of the year. And if that's not the case, so currently we're sitting around 90% of that retention at the end of the year, digging into the why. So why is every child leaving? And also, how do we identify the most vulnerable children in our community, and it not be purely based on who signs up, that we have to be proactive and going to engage with all children in the community, but particularly the most vulnerable. And part of our success criteria is, are we working with the right families and the right children? And if we're not, what do we need to do better?
Vicky, I would love to add to that. Just one particularly interesting thing about the research that Systema Scotland has done, which struck Eric and me when we heard about it as something really new and sort of beyond what most, or a different dimension than most programs are measuring. And that is the dimension of the effect, sort of health effect, mental and physical and health effect of the community. Not only the kids, but how was it measured, measures that had to do with family life, measures that had to do with health within the community, and that those actually changed as a result of the program, and that was measurable. And those were, can you talk a little bit about that research?
So we have had that research running since 2015, with reports published 2018 and most recently 2022. And we know that lots of stakeholders love numbers, and 2022 was the first numbers-based report that we could come up with, but it was more around projected health benefits and the cost-benefit analysis. So I'm happy to share that. It's on our website, makeabignoise.com. I'm not sure if it's .com, but Make a Big Noise Scotland will get you there. So in that last report, 98% of young people who had been through the programme, not to graduation point, but through their time at school, have attended the programme 100 times or more. And they may not have lasted till they were 18. They may not have gone on to study music, but 98% of young people who had been involved with the programme and had come 100 times had gone on to positive post-school destinations. So it was beyond the kind of, did you make it through to the end? We are also continuing that research. So that was through Glasgow Centre for Population Health, so a public health research organisation. And they are now looking at those projected outcomes in it was actually meant to be 25, it's slightly delayed, and 2030, and that's looking at health outcomes and also interactions with the justice system. So that is ongoing, with another report on top, which I'll talk to you about even after this, looking at those 7 delivery principles that were identified, non-music specific, but an approach to delivering a social intervention, and those happening concurrently will lead to social change, which is great for us as advocates for this type of approach and this work. Now we're looking at, that was one programme, can we really robustly have evidence that we are taking this approach across all of our programmes in Scotland, which then would lead us to be able to indicate that we're going to meet those outcomes.
And there's one highlight finding from one of the Glasgow Centre studies where it calculated the opportunity cost, which means an independent organization calculated for every pound that was invested in this Systema Scotland program, was it five pounds of saved
more than that.
government? It was more?
More than that, yeah.
Do you remember? Okay, well,
Yes.
let's say it's 7. but they were actually accurately and reliably able to count that for every pound invested in this program, 7 pounds of saving for government funds were going to be a direct result. And that is really a kind of a gold standard claim to be able to make from an independent research organization.
I just have one other thing to add about the research, which is, I think, something that we've heard over the week. And before the numbers-based report, or 2018 report, the big finding was that the impact came from relationships, and the report was actually then titled People Change Lives.
Nick?
Yeah, just to call out a few things here. I mean, obviously, data needs to drive so much of how we define success, but I think that's not enough. That can't be the sole factor here. So I just want to call out a few things here that I think have already been mentioned, but they're so important. Students matriculating through the program, coming back and being the next generation leaders. What better measure of success can we have? Students being on the board, being teachers. I also want to call out that retention rates are also incredibly important, and tracking why our students are leaving the program. Are they leaving because of transportation issues, or are they moving out of the area, or are they not interested any longer? And looking at that data as well is also really helpful. I also want to say that how we define success evolves. Year one success is going to be maybe, geez, are the kids showing up, that very low attendance rate, versus now in year 18, we have a much different definition about that. So it's okay for that to evolve over time. I also just want to call it success of parents' involvement is really critical. Are they coming to the concerts? Are they coming to the town halls? And one thing we've also implemented this year that's been really transformative is we're hiring our parents to be on our program teams. Exclusively from the areas and communities that we serve are now the people that are running the programming. And that advocacy of the parent driving that has also been really transformative for how we think about the success and engagement of our communities.
Have you seen a change over time in those areas of focus?
With the parents being,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you have a parent, they are advocating and telling you and advocating to other parents, that is going to be way more worth in gold than myself or someone else advocating. Parent to parent, that word of mouth is really proven to be a very effective way to kind of increase engagement, which then goes back to that success measure.
I remember in the early days seeing parents serving snacks and serving lunch, and that sounds like that's actually built up over time.
Absolutely. I think that's a really big point. It's that we started it very simply, and I think we've gone through ebbs and flows of parent engagement, but I think right now with this new strategy, parents and that buy-in is really critical to all measures of success across our students' engagement.
Yeah, I know that a lot of programs have, in my experience, have encouraged parents to come in as volunteers, but to go the next step and actually hire them to be the people responsible for running and making that program work is a really intense re-up, up of the buy-in. Yeah.
Tina, then Sean.
Yeah, building on what everybody has been saying, I think retention rates paint such a clear picture on what you're doing, and understanding where we're losing kids. Attrition for us is mostly caused by the kids moving out of the area, and transportation, it's impossible. We're proud that our retention rate is well in the 90s as well. And that is such an enormous sense of pride. We also do a triangulated evaluation every year. So the evaluation is done by the kids, by the teachers, and by the parents. So we can get an overview. If the kid says, "Oh, I'm doing that," and the parent says, "Well, I don't think so," so it all balances out. And that is done, it's become part and parcel of our culture to do that at the end of the year. And it's so that's really an important moment of pride for the kids to be part of that. And so I think the other thing is that for our kids going forward, all of our kids finish high school and then go on to post-secondary education. And that creates this tremendous, as Ken was saying, this tremendous goal for the kids moving up and seeing that's how I can do, that's where I want to go. But one other thing for our triangulated results, one of the results I'm so proud of is that 98%, this was from the last year's results, 98% of our kids are more aware of how important it is to be kind. And for me, it just speaks volumes. So what I actually created for the answer for this question was not based so much on evaluations, but showing up. And by showing up, I don't mean attending and you take the attendance. I'm saying the kids show up and they want to be part of the class. They want to see their friends. They want to create harmony. They want to be there. They actively want to learn. And I think that is really, really essential. And in order to do that, to create that environment, they have to feel safe. They have to trust everyone around them. And then they have to have the courage to show up, to be vulnerable, to put themselves in the position to be open enough to learn. And that vulnerability takes a tremendous amount of courage. And for me, that is what success is. And it is also very much relevant to our staff, the whole team, but everybody, if they need to show up as their full selves. So that's
Yeah, I echo what Tina's saying as well too. It's that, I would say maybe more granular level. Of course, the higher level is very important and data is important, but I see I would say the day-to-day a bit more. The individualized approach for every single student, and ensuring they have what they need to be successful, and then not defining success for them. Asking what are your aspirations? Where do you want to go? How can we help? How can we support? We always say we can't be everything to everyone, but it takes a village. So there are many resources in Toronto for us and within the systemic community and worldwide that we can support our students. And I think it's the little successes that build to those higher level data aspects as well. I think of the student where we celebrate, you showed up and you opened your case today.
Right.
You know, or a huge success I think of is it's not just the individualized approach with the students, but with the families. There's this, I'm thinking of a parent who reached out to us saying, I've been sick, I haven't been able to work. Can you help me? Like from our student, I can't feed the student. Can you help out? The trust that parent had in our organization to reach out to us, to ask for that, is huge, is absolutely huge. And I think there's no better success for transformative social action. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, music is a side, but music is a catalyst to that. So then we get that student fed, we put the viola in their hand and they're playing fantastic and we heard them last night, you know? So it's that granular sort of individualized approach that everyone who went to Teachers College gets it like bashed in their head, that I think really informs that data, and we really take that at Systema Toronto to heart. It's the small successes, you showed up, or you played as a soloist at the concert, or wow, you're interested in arts administration? It's not like weird, it's great. I say that to an audience of arts administrators, right? It's great, let's support that, you know? Like, let's have you doing seating charts and that sort of thing. So really that individualized approach, I think, is key, that granular level. Top down, but maybe it's an hourglass, you know? And they meet at the middle. Maybe that's a poor analogy, but yeah.
Thank you all. I'm going to ask for quick answers to this question. A lesson learned through experience. I'll give an example. The program Trilagento in Italy, they noticed a number of kids were dropping out that weren't getting into the classical music system they were offering. They didn't want to lose the kids. They started a rock and roll program. And those kids have now become multiple rock and roll bands, and it is a vital place for the kids who weren't getting into the classical music. Other lessons learned. Oh, yeah, That mic is coming up fast, Diego.
Yeah, to me, I have something very clear because when you run a large organization that the teaching artists are a large distance, to build a very consistent culture for everything, for everyone. That we have 300 staff, including teaching artists and admin. Is not enough with when we just do a presentation with a PowerPoint. We need to go there and work side by side and build very significant workshops along and follow up. This is our lesson about that.
Building a culture.
I just want to talk about the importance of investing in your teachers, creating sustainable positions. And that goes back to our earlier question. When we look at teacher retention and how the longer your teachers are with you, how that drives those outcomes. So if I had to look back at the beginning, when you're taking those limited resources that you have at those early years, make sure you're investing in your people. Make sure they're there for the long term.
Yeah, I would say lesson learned. We're on a growth trajectory. Big lesson, growth happens slowly, so you do it right. And it doesn't happen without consultation from the community. Because the worst is we provide something that nobody wants. So nothing for us without us, and absolutely nothing without consultation.
I'm going to pick up on Diego's comment about culture. What I found in the early years is I would do the culture or the mission talk at the beginning of the year. And, I began to wake up to the fact that if it was remembered by the end of the day, I'd be lucky, let alone the end of the week or the month or the first time a hardship came by. And so I began to think about intentional culture. Every organization has a culture, period. It will either be unintentional or accidental, or it will be intentional. And we believe if we want to achieve our mission, we have to have an intentional culture. So I'm just going to take one more few seconds and say, this is the model that we created. Intentional culture is a function of three things: how we think, acting in alignment with how we think, and then sustaining that thinking and acting over time. And so we talk about this. This is our culture map or plan or program. This is what it looks like. So how we think, mission, vision, and values, how we act. We came up with a motto and 9 pledge statements that are sort of a translation. It's like translating a language, right? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? And then how do we sustain that? And that's like the thumb on the hand. If you don't think about that, it doesn't happen. And so we have, once a week, our teams meet and they talk about our organizational culture. We review this. We give examples of what that looks like in the classroom in the past week. And that's the end. It's a 20-minute dress rehearsal around culture. And that's how we try to sustain that over time.
I have to do a quick etymology pause. On the word culture, which we think of as cultural institutions, high, fancy art, etymologically, the word culture simply means the medium in which you grow, like the culture in a biology dish. And that's exactly what we've heard from several of our colleagues here.
Yeah, I'd love to continue on that one because while we have been very intentional to get the right results with our projects and our goals and our missions and our values, what dawned on me not that long ago is that our success, because I was looking at our overall evaluation results and recognizing, for example, that all of our kids go on to post-secondary education. And that has never actually been a goal. What we have done is we have created the culture. We have created like a garden. You have the soil and you plant the seeds and you water it. And sometimes altogether too much manure comes on and you have to dig it out. And you create that, all the right culture and the right conditions for the success. And the success is different, whether it's a flower or a tree or a blade of grass. But that is really, really important, is to create the right culture.
Let me skip to this question. What is one way in which your program is not as successful as you would like?
I'm going to be brave and go first with this question. We have noticed that in Scotland, our primary school years go up to P7, primary 7, and then they go into secondary S1. And we notice from our monitoring data that if we get young people to stay with us till the end of S1 and they make that jump, they're pretty much with us till the end of school. But we do have a dip where young people between the age of 11 and 13, there is a dip in our graph, and it's probably shared. It's shared across, I think, all instrumental teaching. So we're really thinking as an organisation, like, what can we do? So first thing, asking the young people, you know, what can we do to keep you coming to this programme? And that was, for those of you who were here yesterday, we started our national orchestra, and part of the success criteria for that particular programme is that young people from S1 are still with us in S3. So that is a bit of a carrot for them to stick with us. But that is something that is on our minds, and it's not where we would like it to be.
You saw a lot of nodding from this side of the stage.
Yeah, similarly with Sistema Toronto, it's that jump to high school. And that's part of our strategic plan in moving forward, is how do we engage those high school students and keep them coming back and keep them engaged when they go to grade 8. So a similar sort of, and our ideas around that are is community, social elements. So maybe it's an element of, we have ideas around it. Maybe we're not 100% achieving it. I see my team members out there, but we're working towards it. But social, it could be like, we have a bowling night, you know what I mean? To keep the students really engaged, as well as training for work training for the future, ideally. You said teaching artists as well too. Smaller ensembles and larger ensembles, that independent mentorship as well too. All those components working to keep them coming back and really getting our hooks in when they're younger. But a similar sort of challenge.
Others not so successful moments? Nick?
Just adding on, I'm very similar to that transition to high school. I think we're all relating to that. I think when those students are going into that high school model, a lot of the demand on their life changes academically. The pressure to get employment becomes a real push from the parents or guardians. So I'm right there with you. I think we're still trying to crack the code on how can we be more student-centered to address some of those challenges. I think I also want to call out challenges working with the district level of a large city public school. That is a cumbersome challenge to navigate. And I think one of those things is, as soon as you think you're making headway in forming those relationships, the turnover is so high at those levels that it's often really challenging to punch through to make really what I would call systemic improvements in how people view what you're doing within a large district. So that has been a challenge from day one. We're making progress, but it still remains something that's always problematic to really figure out.
We have a collection of mature programs here. Later this afternoon, there's a program about startups, but these are the grown-ups. So let me ask the grown-up programs, or let's say the past early stage, was there a time in the journey of your program to now when there was a change of direction, when there was a major decision or a major choice that circumstance or learning provoked in your program's development?
Yeah, thank you. Definitely when we had our first 5-year strategical planning, because there was a big moment to reflect after some years of working and functioning, and having good results, but this was a milestone to really deeply reflect on what are we doing, how are we doing, why are we doing this. So this relates to the first topic in which I was telling you that we have our frameworks, our goals, our everything, every element. So we set up, of course, some specific strategies and activities, and this happened in 2021. It was still in the context of the pandemic, which of course was a hard time, but it was also an opportunity to take a long time to reflect on our purpose and everything that we want to do make sense and achieve for our goals.
And was there a change you made?
It was a main change. Yeah, because we develop a lot of specific tools and policies and teamwork, and then it was much easier to make the right decisions because we have something
I see.
to
So
see.
not so much a change of direction, but a more focused, more efficient way to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the ways we refer to this is the early years are the honeymoon phase, and then there's the marital phase.
That's an interesting way of putting it. For us a few years ago, and this has been something I've wanted to have, to embody into our culture, is co-leadership. For the longest time, I was the artistic and executive director. And when you're taking care of such a wide variety of responsibilities, you just feel like you're scratching on the surface. And we created this great team, but it was still, I felt I was skimming. And I first put forward to the board about co-leadership before the pandemic, and the board was more traditional back then, and they weren't so keen on that. But fortunately, after the pandemic, we had some new members, and we hired a consultant to really walk us through the whole process and the why behind doing it. And for us, the culture of co-leadership, it resonates throughout our entire organization, because what we're trying to do is encourage our children to be leaders. And we wanted to walk that talk. I also passionately felt that the artistic leadership should not be reporting to the money, and vice versa. It should be hand in hand and have that balance. So co-leadership was quite a big move for us. Yeah.
Lots of that. Yes, I recognise that. For us, we actually had one programme for 5 years, and we spent a long time shaping that. And the amount of time that we spent discussing how to teach a bow hold and how to, the sequence of notes to introduce on the trumpet, and it was really like granular detail. And then we moved to our second site in Glasgow, and then quite quickly moved. So in our last 5-year plan, we more than doubled our staff team in size, but our systems didn't quite keep up with that. So what we're doing now is almost taking some time to breathe and develop those systems, because ultimately we want to grow further. But what we found, and the change, I guess the question is around what changed. And we have a central charity team that supports the programmes, and really understanding the strain that puts on that small central team. And we want to keep that team lean, and we want to keep our organisation flexible. But suddenly, things like having curriculum documented in that track of learning and that being cohesive, but having the small team approach to what is suddenly a much bigger team, and how do you maintain that? And how do you save the team in Aberdeen living the same pain as the team in Stirling already went through? So documenting all of our learning and actually having what can feel like sometimes a bit more of a prescriptive approach to this is how we do things here, very much tied to then the culture, this is how we do things here, and getting that all speaking to each other and shared is quite hard at times, and we're still investing in learning and on that now.
Any others? Yeah.
Nobody else? We want to switch.
Yeah, I'll jump in if that's okay, unless you want to go.
No, you go.
Yeah, I think any program that like Orchids experience rapid growth, in a very short amount of time, you're going to produce challenges. So the framework we may have started with was no longer sustainable once we reached a certain size. And I think that led to us asking some pretty hard questions. Are we really serving our mission? Our values? Are we being intentional? Are we being student-centered? And in all honesty, we arrived at a lot of no's. And coming out of the pandemic, we had the opportunity to launch a new model for our after-school programming that largely reduced our classroom sizes, going from a large group format down to no more than 3 students who are going to be in a class at any given time. And this really led to a tremendous change, not only socially, now you have those opportunities for much deeper connections with your teacher, but also the musical benefits were really, really apparent. And that happened about 4 or 5 years ago now. So that expansion, and I think it's always hard to step back and take a look from a different mirror. Are we really doing what we set out to do? And it's okay to ask those tough questions and say no, and then put something else in play.
It's beautiful, really admirable to be able to look at those questions and hear some no's and then take it seriously. Switching direction a little bit, we have a question about advocating for your program with people you would really like support from, but who are skeptical. What's the language? What do you go to convince a skeptic about this stuff? Just curious.
Go, Vic.
I think this is where evaluation, independent evaluation, that is not specifically around music, but is about approach. And I think as well, there's the proper way to answer that, evaluation, but there's also just knowing what you're dealing with. So why the skeptical? What's their, what's driving that thought? Have they maybe just never experienced being part of something within the arts, or usually people who have been in an orchestra or played an instrument are less skeptical. And the other thing is, in a way that fits with the culture of your organisation, children, young people and families are much stronger voices than ours. So I think, hearing that true impact from the people who have lived that is more powerful than anything we can produce on paper.
I might say a word about content and methodology, a little bit about both. So how do we advocate? I'm going to come back to something that is just over and over we talk about, and it's all about our mission all the time. And if that's true, then our message, how we advocate, is the same for everybody, because our mission doesn't change. And so we start with our mission. We build a case for support that answers the key questions that people want to know about. What's the need? How will we respond to that need? What will be the impact? And how will we be accountable for the results? So a case based on your mission can be communicated in 30 seconds in an elevator, or 30 minutes at a keynote. So I'll give you our 30-second case, and it's simply this: too many kids are left out of opportunity in the society. It's number one. Being left out is devastating in their lives and future. That's number two. And it's number three, it's tragic when that happens, and it doesn't have to be that way. Number four, Sistema New Brunswick is designed from the ground up to counter the negative impacts of being left out. Provides a path to learning, belonging, and personal accomplishment. And the last point, we need to find a way to engage more kids. And then, would you like to hear more about this?
Yes. Beautiful.
Now, methodology, really quickly. We do visits and tours all the time. It's the most powerful tool that we have to convince people of the impact of Sistema New Brunswick in the lives of children. We find that no one can see the kids at work and not immediately and intuitively and deeply understand the impact this experience has on their life today and their future. So a little bit, both content and methods.
That's straight out of Abreu. That he would not have a meeting with you, he would not pitch his program unless you saw the kids first. He said, because you had a whole different conversation after someone had been in the room with the kids. So he was really good at getting people into the field.
And Eric, can I just add one other note? And that is, talk about your mission, whether it's the first interaction or it's someone who's been a donor for 15 years. There's not an interaction I have with anyone who's interested in our program that somehow, some way, I don't communicate our mission. And I would say when we're getting sick and tired of hearing it in our own head, people are just starting to get it. So we've got to talk about our mission all the time in every way with everyone.
Great point. And show the work, as you said, show the work, as Abreu said. And I would say that if anyone here here came to the concert last night, boy, did Sistema Toronto and Sistema New Brunswick show the work. No skeptic could have walked out of that hall.
Yeah, I just want to echo the tours. I find to be incredibly impactful. Bringing people to communities, neighborhoods that they may often not go to. I think is also very eye-opening. And to see where our students are coming from, it's also really eye-opening. Our tours, we let our students lead the tours. So, given that student voice, I think we find it very impactful to combat the skeptical nature of some people.
And yeah, and for us, two things. Some people, they come to our concerts and they're impressed like heck about the music, but we get our kids to introduce all of our music and they tell their story. And they say, hello, my name is, and I'm 8 years old and I've been with orchestra, blah, 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 and they tell a story about themselves. And it just captivates everyone. It really does. So I think that's really important. And the other really, really powerful tool is that being in the capital city of Canada, we get some incredible opportunities to play. And we are featured so often, and that gives us tremendous credibility. When you're playing for the King of England, that really ticks a box. And so I would say that really helps.
And internalized in the kids. I play for the King of England. I remember the kids at YOLO, wasn't it, that they were playing at the Super Bowl, and they were sort of challenged by a backstage security guard who said, "Who are you?" And they said, "Oh, I'm with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. I'm a Philharmonic player." So they internalize that expanded sense of self. We have just 4 or 5 minutes left, so I'm going to cut to our speed closing question, which is about your program 5 years from now. If you can imagine forward, do you see a change? Do you see a different way of both defining the success of the quality of the work you're doing, or any new program features?
Well, I'll go ahead. So basically, I think I envision the time lapse of our organization, like the first 4 or 5 years more focused on the performance and the music results. The second year, as we talk about, the more like structure, the frameworks. And then the next 5 years, I think is a time related to prior questions and topics we talk of consolidating, of making sure like everything that we have built, processes, tools, frameworks, is understood and applied for every teaching artist in our country.
I would see we talked about pipeline before, being a bit more, flowing a bit more smoothly right through to wherever they want to be, basically. So we offer, of course, core programming, intensive core programming for 4 days a week, as well as daytime programming within schools and community outreach programming. And the goal of the in-school programming and the community outreach is to flow into the core program, and then we get them and go through the whole pipeline into high school. So seeing that flow, we're in, I forget what year, I think year 2.5, maybe 3 of offering that in-school programming, and we're seeing that in our Jane Finch location. We're more than doubled our numbers over the course of the year in that interest. So seeing that across all of Toronto, all 4 of our center areas in our communities, so that we get them interested in the in-school, then they sign up for the after-school programming, intensive programming, and then through that into our honors and our high school programming right through. So that flow being just seamless and easy, of course.
Others?
Yeah, this is a hard question. And I think it's important to keep success as an evolution. Keep an eye on it as we continue to grow and expand, that what I think success may look like in 5 years may not be where we end up in the destination. I think one thing that I've heard a lot through this conversation, but Orchids is looking to grow, bring more communities together. How can we ensure that our communities to come together in the most intentional way? And students from different backgrounds, ethnicities, coming together in a meaningful way is really important in addition to making music. So something that I'll be thinking about as we go ahead for the next 5 years.
We're getting a note for final comments being short, if there are any more to offer about 5 years.
Yeah, on this question, we have done a succession of multi-year plans over our history. We just completed a major look ahead recently, and during the pandemic, we developed a plan and a campaign around the theme of 10,000 children. And for us, the fundamentals of that plan don't change. Our mission, inspire kids to achieve their full potential. Our vehicle and tool is music in the orchestra. Our goal, remove barriers and provide the scaffolding, our focus, excellence in music performance. So what does change, however, is our ambition and our drive to engage more kids. The pace of change is too slow in the society. Thousands and thousands are being left by the wayside, and it's tragic, and it doesn't have to be that way. So our 10,000 children plan is a 15-year plan. It's to engage an entire generation of young people. We'll more than double in size. We'll engage 10,000 kids over the life of the plan. And we believe we can structurally contribute to the lowering of child poverty in our province for the first time in 3 decades.
Any final comment? Has to be quick.
I think what we're definitely building towards increasing our reach for social enterprise to help us create a revenue streams and feeding, so it goes round in a circle. So what we offer and build and offer to children, we can then feed back into our revenue stream, and it really helps with our own programming.
Let's leave the close with additional revenue streams. And thank our panel so much for all that wisdom you shared with us in such a short time. Thank you. I'm about to give it to you.